Dominika Igorova, a renowned Russian ballet dancer, has dedicated her life to both her passion for dancing and caring for her ailing mother since her teenage years. After entrusting her mother to a caretaker, Dominika heads to work, encountering various guests, including her uncle Ivan, the deputy director of Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, SVR. During a meet and greet, Dmitry Ustinov, a gangster, insinuates that she can reach out to him if she needs anything. He asks that they take photo together while posing for a photo. Ustinov seizes the opportunity to inappropriately touch Dominika. The scene shifts to Nate. He operates with a team of CIA internal ops officers in Moscow. Nate is on the verge of meeting with the CIA's most critical asset in Russia, codenamed Marble, a high-ranking general in the SVR. The CIA has been successfully running Marble for 14 years. Nate faces an unexpected encounter with the police. Quick thinking allows him to create a diversion by firing shots, ensuring the escape of his Russian mole without detection. Maneuvering through the city, Nate manages to get Marble onto the subway, successfully evading the pursuing team and safeguarding the CIA's paramount asset. Nate is resolute in ensuring Marble's survival and continued cooperation with the CIA. Marble defected because the Russians denied him the opportunity to bring his wife to America for cancer treatments. Following this incident, Dominika performs a captivating dance that impresses the audience. Unfortunately, her dance takes a tragic turn when her partner's jump results in a severe leg injury, requiring emergency surgery and hospitalization. The following day, Ivan visits the director of the SVR, General Vladimir Korchnoi. They present video footage of Nate's meeting in Gorky Park, emphasizing their interest in the unidentified individual. The scene then shifts back to Dominika, waking up in a hospital bed to find her leg encased in a metal frame. Devastated by the realization that she can never dance again, months pass, and despite walking with the aid of a cane, Dominika receives news that her workplace will no longer provide benefits due to her replacement being found from her uncle. Offering assistance and suggesting she come to him when ready. Before leaving, he hands her an envelope containing intimate pictures of her former dance partner and replacement, along with a recording implying that what happened to her was deliberate to take out and not an accident. Enraged, Dominika goes to the theater, watches her former partner and his girlfriend practice, then follows them to the steam room. Witnessing them making out, she attacks them with her cane in a fit of rage, reporting the incident as an accident afterward. With her career in ruins, Dominika turns to her uncle for help. He agrees, but only if she returns them. Favor? The SVR is interested in gaining more information on the earlier gangster, Dmitry, her uncle having noticed that Dmitry likes her, tasked Dominika to befriend him and earning his trust using her feminine charms. Despite hesitation, Dominika, burdened by her mother's medical expenses, has no other choice. That night, he told her to dress beautifully. Dominika goes to Dmitry's hotel and heads to the bar to catch his attention. As expected, Dmitry approaches, asks if he can join her, and she claimed that she was waiting for a friend. He insists, and she agrees. She expresses her desire to feel special again, and they move to a private room. She requested that his guards should stay outside. After a while, he instructs her to undress, and the situation takes a disturbing turn as he acts aggressively rape her. As he is raping her, at that moment, a figure in a black helmet enters the room and murders Dmitry. The intruder throws a coat at Dominika to conceal her bloodied body and guides her through the back door. Revealing himself as Konstantin, an SVR agent sent by Ivan, he becomes Dominika's rescuer. Shortly after, Ivan confronts Dominika, offering her a stark choice: either become an SVR operative or face execution for witnessing Dmitry's murder. Faced with this ultimatum, Dominika chooses to work for them. Following this decision, Dominika undergoes enrollment in State School 4, a rigorous institution specializing in training Sparrow's SVR operatives skilled in using sexpionage to seduce their targets. On her arrival, Matron, the headmistress of Sparrow, greets her, assigns a new identity, and leads her inside. The next day, classes begin, and Matron delivers a speech on the world's chaos, highlighting Russia's willingness to make sacrifices to rectify it. She announces that the students' bodies now belong to the state, obligating them to perform any assigned task. In the subsequent scene, Nate faces a CIA panel that decides to suspend him for his blunder in Russia, However, Nate argues that he's worked with Marble for years and that no one else can be trusted. His plea is eventually considered, and he is given a second chance to redeem himself. Nate is then assigned to the nearest city, Budapest, to re-establish contact with Marble. Unbeknownst to them, their every move is being monitored by the SVR. Back in Sparrow School, Matron teaches the Sparrows how to identify what their target wants. She displays several images on TV and asks them to identify their desires. The first one is incorrectly answered by an arrogant student named Victor, and Dominika corrects him, making him the laughingstock in front of everyone. Another female student correctly guesses the second image, and she is summoned to the front of the class to come and satisfy a man. She gets down and couldn't do it. The following day, the students are asked to welcome a troop of soldiers who have recently returned from combat. Dominika selects a young man and takes him to a private to please him. Later, the performance is observed by Matron and the other students. Matron comments on Dominika's technique, stating that it was good but she still hasn't learned to fully surrender. After class, as Dominika is taking a shower, Victor comes from behind and tries to assault her, but she bravely defends herself. The incident causes a huge uproar, and General Vladimir himself arrives at the school to investigate. He asks Dominika why she did it, to which she responds that she serves the state, not her fellow students. In the next class, Dominika is summoned to the front by Matron, while Vladimir watches through a CCTV camera. Matron presents a picture of Victor and asks Dominika to identify his desires. Just then, Victor is brought into the room, and Matron orders Dominika to give him what he wants. She undresses herself and sits on the table with her legs open, encouraging him to take her. However, Victor, still terrified from the earlier incident, leaves without even touching her. Dominika then answers Matron's question that he wants power. This impresses Vladimir, so he assigns her to a mission in Budapest. Her job is to gain Nate's trust and reveal Marble's identity. Agreeing to the mission, Dominika travels to Budapest and shares accommodation with fellow Sparrow, Marta, under the supervision of SVR Station Chief Maxim Volantov. She then begins following Nate and goes to the same swimming pool where he frequents. Intentionally bumping into him, she has a brief chat, pretending to be a translator for the embassy. The next day, Dominika heads to the swimming pool, but doesn't find Nate there. Furthermore, she learns that her ID is missing. It turns out that Nate has already figured out that she's a Russian spy trying to uncover Marble's identity. He reports this to his superiors and recognizes her potential value. Hearing this, his superiors grant him permission to get closer to Dominika to gather more information. Later, Dominika visits the embassy and discovers Marta talking with an American politician named Stephanie Boucher. Not long after, Nate approaches Dominika and confesses to taking her ID from the pool. Upon realizing that he's aware of her mission, she reveals her true intentions. The two then have a short conversation and agree to meet for dinner the following day. Afterwards, Dominika returns to her apartment and searches Marta's room, where she discovers that Marta has been tasked with buying confidential information from Stephanie. The next day after work, she tails the station chief, Maxim, to a bar and requests him to provide her more time by sending a good report to Moscow. In order to make him do so, Dominika provokes him into hitting her. Now that his act is caught on cameras, she blackmails him into sending a better report or else she'll turn him into the police. Meanwhile, Nate is waiting for her at the restaurant, but when she doesn't show up for a long time, he leaves, assuming that she ditched him. Unbeknownst to him, Dominika follows him to his place. She rings the doorbell, and he covertly lets her in. Nate frantically inquires how she found his place, and Dominika turns up the TV volume to ensure that they can't be overheard before asking him about what happened in Gorky Park. After receiving the answer, she kisses him, but he stops her midway and asks her to go home. The following day, Dominika receives an unexpected visit from Ivan, who wants to check on her progress with Nate. Feeling pressured to buy more time, she makes up a lie and tells him that she's also working on Stephanie's case with Marta, but will require additional funding. Ivan gives it a thought and decides to leave for now. While getting his coat, Dominika manages to sneak a look at his passport to gather intel on him. Later that evening, Dominika returns home to shockingly find Marta's lifeless body in the bathtub. Before she can even comprehend what happened, Konstantin, the same SVR agent from earlier, appears from behind and grabs her by the neck. He then explains that this is what happens to those who share secrets. Meanwhile, Nate informs his superiors about Marble's new message, which confirms that Dominika is a Sparrow. Although his superiors view her as a threat, Nate believes that she's still recruitable. The next evening, he brings Dominika to her apartment and admits that he knows her real identity. Dominika, in turn, reveals her story, and her only concern is her mother's safety. Nate then offers her a deal to become a double agent for him, promising her protection in return. After thinking it over, Dominika asks if she can trust him. He assures her that she can, and the two end up becoming intimate. In the morning, Dominika meets with Nate's superiors, who subject her to a lie detector test to assess her reliability. When she passes the test, she asks for money, claiming that she can buy them information from Stephanie Bolshoi. On Friday, Dominika travels to London with Maxim to meet Stephanie and execute the transaction. She stays in a hotel room that the CIA has specially prepared for her with security cameras and a set of discs hidden under a desk, which she can swap for the real ones later. Shortly after, Stephanie arrives at the hotel, and Dominika approaches her, claiming that she is sent by Marta. Once Stephanie is convinced, she hands over the discs in exchange for the money. Dominika pretends to authenticate the discs, but in reality, she switches them with the fake ones. After the deal, Stephanie realizes that she's being monitored by American intelligence agents. In a state of panic, she throws the money in the trash and tries to cross the street. But unfortunately, she only ends up getting hit by a truck and dying on the spot. Russian agents watching the whole incident assume that their mission has been compromised. They also suspect that Dominika and Maxim were the ones who tipped off the Americans, so the two are ordered to return to Moscow. Upon their arrival, Ivan seizes the discs and apprehends both Dominika and Nate. Despite their protests of innocence, they endure excruciating torture for days, and Maxim is even executed. However, Dominika remains adamant in her denial of involvement with the Americans. Eventually, Ivan begins to believe her and allows her to go back to Budapest to carry out her original mission of extracting Marble's identity. Upon reuniting with Nate, Dominika enjoys a romantic evening with him at his residence. However, in the middle of the night, she wakes up to discover Konstantin subjecting Nate to torture in order to obtain Marble's identity. At first, Dominika feigns complicity with Konstantin and even assists in inflicting harm on Nate. But when he is distracted, she assaults him, enabling Nate to break free from his restraints. The two then team up against Konstantin and manage to take him down, but they endure serious injuries during this process. In the next scene, Dominika wakes up at the hospital where she receives a surprise visit from General Vladimir. Shockingly, he reveals himself as the mole Marble. Vladimir, who is a former patriotic official, confesses that he became disillusioned with Russia's rampant corruption when his sick wife was denied treatment from an American doctor. Fearing that he will soon be caught and his sacrifice will be in vain, Vladimir instructs Dominika to expose him to Ivan. Doing so would make her a national hero and allow her to replace him as a mole. Dominika initially thinks the idea is absurd, but after a lot of convincing, she decides to turn herself in to the authorities. She asks to speak to the Russian ambassador, and when her wish is granted, she explains that she has the name of the mole. However, she will only reveal his name in exchange for her freedom. In the aftermath of the conversation, an exchange meeting is scheduled at an airport. Nate is assigned to accompany Dominika in order to confirm the mole's identity. He is deeply upset as he feels used and betrayed by Dominika's actions. However, she has a surprise for him. Shortly after, the Russians approach them with the mole, whose face, when uncovered, turns out to be Ivan. It is revealed that Dominika had been fabricating evidence to frame her uncle ever since she arrived in Budapest, and even blamed him for the botched exchange in London. Shocked, Nate quickly confirms Ivan as the mole, and just after the exchange, Ivan is shot by a Russian sniper. After the exchange ends, Dominika is taken away on a helicopter. In the final scene, she being honored in a Russian military ceremony attended by General Vladimir. Dominika is now living a good and free life with her mother, something which she had always dreamt of. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this.